The curtains came down on this year's ASEAN Regional Forum on Sunday. What's particularly interesting about this forum is that it's the only one that both North and South Korea, as well as the US and China, all participate in. There had been much anticipation ahead of this year's event because despite the positive developments that had been made in North Korea relations this year, progress had stalled recently, and it was hoped that if the ministers met, then negotiations would get back on track, particularly between North Korea and the US. Although they did meet, they did not sit down for formal talks, and differences between the sides remain. Our Jung-hee tells us more.
Expectations were high at the ASEAN Regional Forum, with the foreign ministers of South Korea, North Korea, the US and China all present. It was hoped the forum could provide momentum in the struggling North Korea-U.S. denuclearization talks. But the annual regional forum ended with no foreign ministerial meetings at all between the two Koreas, nor between North Korea and the US. The tug-of-war continued between Pyongyang and Washington, with clashing views on sanctions. Making a statement at the forum, North Korean Foreign Minister Jung-hee stressed that Pyongyang has already taken some goodwill steps, halting nuclear missile tests and dismantling its main nuclear test site. Pointing out that Washington is not responding to such actions and is still holding on to sanctions, he said, both sides will have to work things out simultaneously. Meanwhile, speaking to the reporters separately, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo emphasized the need to strictly enforce all sanctions against North Korea, mentioning recent reports about illegal ship-to-ship petroleum transfers. Over the weekend, the U.S. also slapped new sanctions on North Korean and Russian entities, saying sanctions will remain in place until North Korea's final denuclearization. Reports have been pouring out from Pyongyang for several days in a row, all urging Washington to take actions in return for the North's efforts, namely lifting sanctions. Pyongyang's state-run newspaper Rodong-sinmun claimed on Monday that the UN resolutions should have disappeared already as Pyongyang has taken some practical steps. Saying that the most important thing now is to build confidence with one another, it urged the U.S. to abandon sanctions and pressure. While Washington is firm in keeping its economic pressure on Pyongyang, especially with its joint military drills with South Korea suspended, how North Korea and the U.S. find a middle ground remains to be seen. Jung-hee, Arirang News.